Eyeless Jack is one of those interesting examples of how the creepypasta community would often take characters and stories that were poorly written or put together and make them into something far more interesting than their source material. The story itself is a very simple one, which goes as follows. A man named Mitch moves in with his brother Edwin after his house was foreclosed. During his first few nights, Mitch begins hearing rustling outside, but brushes it off, believing it to be nothing but raccoons. A week later, he wakes up to find a gash across his cheek, and upon visiting the doctor, he is told, quote, "You somehow lost your kidney last night," and is sent home without any further investigation into why that could have happened. That night, Mitch attempts once more to get some quality sleep, but is woken to the sight of Eyeless Jack looming over his bed, watching him. Jack is described as being a tall, humanoid figure wearing a black hoodie and blue mask, who is missing both his eyes and has black goop leaking from the empty sockets. Mitch manages to snap a photo of the intruder, leading to the origin of the iconic image we know of today, and he ran away to the forest to get away from him. At this point, he's knocked unconscious after somehow tripping, and when he next wakes, he is in the hospital once again. The doctor tells him that he'll be alright, but Edwin was found dead in their house. The story ends with Mitch returning to Edwin's house to retrieve his camera, finding his brother's dead body and a half-eaten kidney sitting right next to it. That is Eyeless Jack, and from a mere description of it, you'd probably wonder why this story ever gained any form of popularity in the creepypasta community in the first place. Aside from the creepy photo which was created by the artist Pirate Cashew, this story really didn't have much going for it. The characters, especially the doctor, are extraordinarily stupid. The pacing is all over the place, and we are quite literally given nothing to work with when it comes to what Jack is supposed to be. And funnily enough, it's that last point that I unironically believe is the reason for this character's popularity. See, while many of the stories I've discussed on this channel had gained their iconography from their disturbing premises and sometimes genuinely good writing, I feel like Eyeless Jack is an exception to that. Looking into the fandom that quickly emerged for these stories and characters, one thing you will quickly notice is the sheer amount of fanfiction material fans of these characters loved to make. People absolutely adored putting their own spins and interpretations on pre-established characters, attempting to make them scarier or in many cases pit them up against other popular characters like them. I feel like this side of the fandom is the absolute reason why Eyeless Jack thrived as much as it did. This story is not good and tells us nothing about its characters or the titular monster, but that unintentionally made it work for creepypasta fans because it effectively gave them a blank canvas of a monster they could imprint whatever interpretation they had onto. He had his bare-bone gimmick of eating kidneys and having no eyes with black goo oozing from the sockets, but aside from that, you could rewrite him to be any way you want and have it work because he does so little in the original story to begin with. This much can be seen with the many different fanfictions that exist for Eyeless Jack, all of which attempting to give their own spin to his origin and character to try and make him their own. Perhaps the most famous of these fanfictions is the origin story for Jack, which was made by Mishimish on DeviantArt. In this story, Eyeless Jack starts out as a regular college student who ends up being kidnapped by a cult trying to give a vessel to their god. Black tar is poured into Jack's eyes, giving him the vision of the cult's god, but something ends up going wrong with the ritual and Jack is transformed into a horrible monster who slaughters every member of the cult. The story ends with a newspaper headline describing the group of cultists being found dead in the forest with all their kidneys removed. This story was but one of the many fan-made Eyeless Jack origin stories that were made in an attempt to flesh out the character, and fans accepted it as his true origin so much that some fandom wikis even go as far as to classify it as canon, which just isn't true. Okay, so editor's note here. There has been a crazy development that I have experienced while in the process of editing this video and grabbing assets. Because, you know, you just heard me say that this supposedly canon version of Jack's origin was actually the Mishimish story, which has been misinterpreted into his canon lore. So as it turns out, I was wrong about that, actually. If you scroll down on the wiki page that I use as an example of this, you can actually see labeled under non-canon the Mishimish story, which has all the exact same details as the one that is supposedly canon, aside from some small things like Jack's name being different. So, you know, I got a bit curious about that and started doing some looking into it, you know? I wanted to fact check to make sure I wasn't spreading misinformation, and upon doing some more research, I found out that the Mishimish version of the story was actually based on a bunch of bulletin points and canon lore for Jack that was provided by the original story's author, Azel 5000. And like, you know, this wasn't like written into like a canon story. No, this origin and like these details about him were just provided as these little cliff notes for any fanfiction writers or members of the community to basically just sink their teeth into if they wanted to write any material with him or just learn more about the character. So I was wrong about whether or not this was canon, because it is. However, in being wrong, I actually got a stronger point for what I'm trying to say in this video, because the actual canon explanation here is that the creator just straight up gave people a bunch of little tidbits of lore about Jack and just said, go ham, go write your own shit with it, go use this. So I guess this was a happy little accident in the process of making this. So yeah, there you go. There's that bit. You don't need to comment about it. Anyway, back to the video. I feel like that alone is a testament, though, to why this character is so appealing to so many people. It's not really the story itself, but rather that this character and his concept were reinvented and explored by so many fans that he at this point belongs just as much to the fanbase as a whole as he does to the story's original author. And honestly, I think that's really cool. Having grown up viewing these creepypastas more as urban legends than fictional horror stories, seeing all these unique spins on characters like Eyeless Jack in a way made them feel more special to me. It was like everyone had their own story to tell about this character, all of which fleshing him out and exploring him in ways I never expected to see. And that alone was enough to turn what I initially viewed as one of the worst written creepypastas into an internet horror classic. Eyeless Jack became the creepypasta community's blank canvas, and in his own strange way, I absolutely adore him as a character for it. If you ever get the chance, go check out some of the art and stories made surrounding him. You may be surprised with the cool stuff many people were able to create from such a simple character. Anyways though, that'll be all from me for now. Thank you very much for watching. I cannot wait to see you here for whatever my next project ends up being. Goodbye for now.